Okay, so imagine for a second that your brain is a miser.
A total cheapskate.
Yeah, a complete cheapskate.
Yeah.
Not just, the person who buys generic cereal. I mean, the actual biological machinery in your head that produces language.
Right.
We usually think of language as this boundless poetic thing, right? Shakespeare, hip-hop, all of it.
It's all about expression.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
But what if I told you that deep down, the system that actually builds your sentences is, well, it's incredibly lazy.
It is a bit of a blow to the ego, isn't it? We like to think complexity means effort, but the research we're diving into today argues that the grammar is all driven by an obsession with economy.
Economy. That's the key word.
Yeah.
And to get into this, we are looking at some seriously heavy-hitting linguistic theory.
We are.
We're digging into the Minimalist program, specifically how sentences are built.
Yeah.
And I have to warn everyone, the terminology here is a little wild. We're not just talking about nouns and verbs.
No.
We're talking about rules with names like greed, last resort, and my personal favorite, procrastinate.
They do sound colorful, but in this context, they're describing very precise, almost mathematical operations. The whole Minimalist program is an attempt to strip away decades of old linguistic rules.
Like what?
Well, we used to have things like deep structure and the projection principle. This theory is asking, can we explain all of language using only the absolute essentials, just by looking at how the brain satisfies interface conditions?
Interface conditions. That sounds like we're debugging a piece of software.
In a way, we are. The theory proposes that language really only answers to two masters.
Okay.
The sound system, how we pronounce things, and the meaning system, how we interpret them. Everything else, all the grammar, the word order, it's just the machinery trying to connect those two things as cheaply as possible.
So let's unpack this cheapness. One of the core ideas is something called last resort,
Right.
which sounds very dramatic, like a bad action movie. What does it actually mean for a sentence?
It basically means don't move anything unless you absolutely have to.
Don't do any extra work.
None. A step in building a sentence, what we call a derivation, is only legal if it is necessary for convergence.
Convergence. Okay, there's another one of those terms.
Think of convergence as, like, the system successfully compiling the code without crashing. If the sentence finishes its process and doesn't break any fundamental laws, it converges.
And if you make a move that wasn't strictly necessary.
The system just rejects it. It's strictly utilitarian.
Okay, let's get a concrete example because it's getting a little abstract. The sources use this really fascinating contrast with the word there.
Right, as in, there is a fly in my soup.
Exactly.
So let's break that down. Start with the normal sentence. There's a strange man in the garden.
There is a strange man in the garden. Seems fine to me.
Okay, so mechanically, the phrase a strange man starts out low in the sentence structure near the end. But English grammar has this rule that the subject position, the very start of the sentence, has to be filled.
Right.
So we insert the word there to fill that empty slot. It's a dummy word, a placeholder.
Okay, so there is just a seat filler. That works. But then the text gives us this, absolute train wreck of a sentence to compare it with.
Oh, I know the one.
Get ready for this. There seems to a strange man that it is raining outside.
Oof. It just hurts the ears, doesn't it?
It sounds like someone is having a stroke. But why is it wrong? I can sort of guess what it's trying to say.
And that's the interesting question, right? Why do the mechanics fail? So in that bad sentence, look at where a strange man is. It's inside a prepositional phrase. Seems to a strange man.
Okay, inside to a strange man.
In that position, a strange man is totally fine. All its grammatical requirements, specifically its case properties, are satisfied by that little word to.
So it's happy, it has its ticket stamped, it's comfortable.
Exactly. It doesn't need anything. But the word there at the beginning of the sentence is panicking.
It's panicking.
There is what we call an affix at the logical form level. It's needy. It needs a noun to attach to for it to make sense. Ideally, a strange man would, move up or connect with it to help it out.
But it doesn't. Why not?
Because of the principle of greed.
Greed. Are we actually saying the words themselves are selfish?
We are. The principle of greed says that movement is self-serving. An element only acts to satisfy its own requirements.
So a strange man is already satisfied down there. It looks up at there, sees it's struggling, and just says,
Not my problem.
wow. So the sentence fails because the noun refuses to be altruistic.
That's it, precisely. It won't move just to fix the sentence for some other word.
That is just incredibly cynical. So because of greed, there is left hanging. And what happens to the sentence?
Well, this is where it gets really, really weird. According to the Minimalist program, the derivation actually, it converges.
Wait, hold on. You said converges means it works, but that sentence, there seems to a strange man,
Yes.
is just garbage. You can't say that.
It converges mechanically. The system followed all the rules. A strange man stayed put because of greed. There was inserted, all the boxes were checked, but the result is what the text calls semi-gibberish.
Semi-gibberish. That sounds like my high school essays.
It means the structure is technically legal, but it has no coherent interpretation. The word there is left freestanding. It has nothing to latch onto, so the meaning system, the logical form, just looks at it and says, I can't read this.
So the brain's grammar machine doesn't actually care if the sentence makes sense.
And that is the huge takeaway here. The linguistic system is driven by these narrow, mechanical requirements, checking off features like a bureaucrat. It is not driven by a search for intelligibility.
It doesn't care if you sound smart.
It only cares if the gears turn correctly according to the laws of greed and economy.
That is somewhat terrifying. We're just running a biological algorithm that's happy to produce nonsense as long as it saves energy.
Pretty much.
Okay, so greed stops things from moving. But obviously we do move words around. I don't say, John bought what. I say, what did John buy? The word what moves. How does the system handle that?
This brings us to the copy theory of movement. And this is where we have to sort of change how we visualize sentences.
Okay, paint me a picture.
In the older theories, we used to think that when a word moved, it just hopped, like a frog from one lily pad to another, leaving the old spot empty.
Right. It was here, now it's there.
Simple. The Minimalist program suggests something different. It suggests that when you move a word, you don't actually move it.
You don't.
You clone it. You create a full copy of it in the new position, but you also keep the original one in the old position.
So if I say, which house did John live in? The phrase, which house, is in two places at once in my head.
Exactly. In your brain structure, it looks something like, which house did John live in which house?
But I don't say that. I'd sound like a skipping record.
Right. And this is where that economy comes back. We have two interfaces, the phonetic form, or sound, and the logical form, or meaning.
Oh.
To be efficient, the sound system just deletes the bottom copy. It says, I'm not pronouncing this twice.
Makes sense.
But, and this is where it gets really interesting, the meaning system, the logical form, might actually need that bottom copy. It might decide to delete the top copy instead.
Wait, why would the meaning system want the copy that we didn't pronounce? That seems backwards.
To handle the logic of the sentence, let's look at a case involving reconstruction. Take the sentence. Guess in which house John lived.
Guess in which house John lived.
Got it. For that to make logical sense, your brain has to turn it into a kind of formula. It needs to look like, guess which X, such that X is a house and John lived in X.
Right. Logically, the house part really belongs back at the end, inside the lived-in part.
Correct. So the sound system deletes the bottom copy, so you speak normally, but the meaning system deletes parts of the top copy and uses the bottom copy to process the logic.
That is wildly efficient. It's like teleportation. The word appears at the front for my mouth, but it stays at the back for my brain.
That's a great way to put it. And this mechanism, this copy theory, is the key to solving a huge mystery about how we understand idioms.
Oh, this is the part of the text that felt like a detective story.
It really is a puzzle.
The take-a-picture mystery. I struggled with this at first, but when it clicked, it was amazing.
So the text uses the idiom, take a picture, to figure out exactly when these rules apply. First, we have to agree the phrase has two meanings.
Right, meaning one is literal. I see a photo on your desk, I grab it, I walk away, I took the picture.
Pick up and carry away.
Right.
Meaning two is the idiom. I pull out my phone and snap a photo. I took a picture. I didn't steal anything.
Correct. Okay, so with that in mind, consider this sentence. John wondered which picture of himself Bill took.
John wondered which picture of himself Bill took. Okay, so himself is a reflexive. It has to refer to a guy in the sentence. Does it mean John or does it mean Bill?
It's ambiguous. It could be either. Maybe John is wondering about a selfie that Bill took.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe he's wondering about a physical photo of John that Bill stole.
Okay, I follow. But here is the crazy twist the source material points out. If himself Amato refers to Bill,
Yes.
you are allowed to use the idiomatic meaning. You can mean photograph.
Okay.
But, and this is the mind-bending part, if himself refers to John, you cannot use the idiom. It has to mean the literal pick it up and steal meaning. Isn't that bizarre? Who himself refers to dictates whether your camera works or not.
It's completely nuts. Why on earth Would referring to John break the idiom?
It all comes down to copy theory and where the words are sitting. Think of the idiom take a picture, like a chemical bond.
Okay.
For the meaning of photograph to exist, the verb take and the noun picture have to be touching. They have to form a single unit at the meaning level.
They need to be holding hands.
Exactly. Now, in our sentence, which picture of himself did Bill take? The word picture has moved all the way to the front. Physically, the bond is broken.
Right. So how do we get the idiom back?
We use the copy, the ghost of the phrase that was left behind at the bottom. The meaning system looks at that bottom copy. Bill took picture of himself.
So if we use the bottom copy, picture's right next to take, so the idiom works.
Yeah.
We can mean photograph.
Yes. But look closely. If we use that bottom copy, where is the word himself?
It's inside the phrase, right next to Bill. Bill took picture of himself.
And because it's right next to Bill, grammar rules say himself must refer to Bill. You have no choice.
Oh, so if I want to save the idiom, I have to reconstruct the sentence at the bottom. And if I do that, himself gets stuck looking at Bill.
Precisely. Now, what if you want himself to refer to John?
Well, John is way up at the start, John muttered. So to connect to John, the phrase, which picture of himself, has to be high up. It has to stay in the top copy.
Correct. But if you keep it at the top copy,
Then picture is far away from take. The chemical bond is broken.
and the idiom dissolves, you are left with only the literal meaning. Which picture did Bill steal?
That is just incredible. It's like a logic puzzle built into our subconscious. We're doing this math every time we speak, and we have no idea.
It proves that condition A, that's the rule that governs words like himself, it has to apply at the logical form interface, at the very end of the process. The system is trading off between saving the idiom and connecting the reflexive.
So we've got this system. It's miserly. It copies things. It reconstructs them. But just when I thought I was getting it, the text introduces a contradiction, a paradox. The Freyden-Lebeau example.
Right. We just established that the system wants to reconstruct. It likes to put things back down at the bottom.
Yeah, we just proved that with the idiom.
But now look at this sentence. Which picture of Tom did he like?
Which picture of Tom did he like?
Okay. If we follow our rule and reconstruct that, if we put picture of Tom back down next to, what do we get?
We get, did he like picture of Tom?
And can he refer to Tom in that sentence?
He liked Tom. No. If he is Tom, you'd have to say he liked himself. You can't say he liked Tom. That's illegal in grammar.
Exactly. That's a violation of condition C. So in this case, reconstruction would cause the whole sentence to crash. It would be fatal.
So we have a glitch in the matrix. Sometimes we must reconstruct to get an idiom, but other times, if we reconstruct, we break a fundamental law. How does the lazy brain know which one to do?
The source text proposes a solution here that is, well, it's extremely creative. They call it cliticization LF.
Clitty what now? You're going to have to translate that one.
It does sound medical, doesn't it? But
Yeah.
it's actually mechanical. Cliticization LF is the idea that the word himself isn't one solid piece.
That's not.
The theory suggests that at the logical form, the self part acts like a little magnet. It detaches from him and floats up to attach itself to a verb.
Wait, you're saying the word himself literally splits in half inside my brain?
At the level of meaning, yes. The self is a hanger-on. It wants to stick to the verb, like wonder or take.
Okay, that is bizarre. So this floating self is moving around. How does that solve our paradox?
It lets the system operate on a preference principle.
A preference principle. Is this like procrastinate?
Similar vibe. The rule is basically do the most efficient thing first. The system prefers to reconstruct everything to the bottom because that makes the operator part at the top simpler. It wants to minimize baggage.
So the default setting is send it back down.
Correct. But if sending it back down causes a fatal crash like in the which picture of Tom did he like example, the system says, whoops, that crashes, let's try the other option.
So it tries to be efficient, but if efficiency kills the sentence, it goes to plan B.
Exactly. And that explains why some sentences are ambiguous and others force a specific reading. The grammar is constantly weighing the cost of movement against the risk of crashing.
It really is an economy. It's balancing the budget every single time we open our mouths.
It is. And remember, all of this is happening in milliseconds, unconsciously.
So let's zoom out. What does this all mean for the big picture? We started with the idea of the brain as a miser.
The big takeaway from this text is that we can eliminate a lot of the old baggage of linguistic theory. For a long time, linguists thought there were these distinct levels, deep structure and surface structure.
And this source is saying, those don't exist.
The Minimalist program argues they're unnecessary overhead. Everything happens at the interfaces, sound and meaning. The journey in between is just a series of mechanical operations driven by greed and procrastinate. There is no deep structure.
It's just ruthless efficiency.
It is, and it leaves us with a very provocative final thought.
Oh, I caught this at the very end of the text. It was about condition A again, the rule about himself.
Right. We spend all this time analyzing condition A. We used it to solve the idiom mystery, but the text suggests that if this theory of movement, this cliticization LF, is actually correct, we might not need condition A at all.
The rule might not exist, but we just used it to explain everything.
It might just be a side effect, an illusion. We think there is a rule saying himself must find an antecedent nearby, but maybe that's just what happens when the little self-clitic tries to move and hits a wall. The rule is just an illusion created by the movement of the pieces.
That is a trippy thought. It's like watching traffic. You might think there's a rule that says cars generally form lines, but really there's no rule. It's just the result of cars can't drive through other cars.
Exactly. The pattern isn't the rule. The pattern is the result of greed getting home fast and convergence not crashing.
So we're left wondering, what other rules of language, things we were taught in school, things linguists have studied for decades, are just illusions?
Are there really any rules, or is it all just the side effect of a lazy brain trying to save energy?
That is the ultimate question of the Minimalist program. How much of what we call language is just physics applied to information?
A fascinating place to leave it.
Next time you catch yourself being lazy, just tell people you're being linguistically economical.
Wow.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
A pleasure as always.
See you next time.